Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to explore a pretty profound paradigm shift today, something that's absolutely required if you want to truly master how you deal with difficult, totally draining people. We are unpacking some incredibly grounded wisdom about exactly where intelligent people go completely wrong when they encounter foolishness, and more importantly, how to reclaim your focus.
So I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever just wasted your energy trying to explain yourself to someone who is literally committed to misunderstanding you? It's so exhausting, right? You step onto their battlefield thinking they want the truth, but really, they just want noise. They want a reaction. And if they can pull that anger out of you, they'll just point to it as proof that they were right all along.
Well, listen to this quote. Wisdom is not winning every argument. Wisdom is knowing which people are not worth the cost of your peace. Just let that stark reality sink in for a moment. Intelligence isn't about getting the last word or winning a shouting match. It's really about preservation. It's about how much of your internal peace you can successfully protect. All right, moving on to section 1, the intelligence trap. We're going to unpack a pretty brutal mistake that highly intelligent people make when they're suddenly confronted with pure foolishness. This perfectly illustrates the core issue. See, our impulse to correct someone often feels like justice. You hear something totally ignorant, and your very first instinct is, I gotta fix this. But honestly, that's usually just the ego wearing a teacher's robe. We just can't stand being misunderstood. True restraint, however, isn't passive. It is strength under command. It's feeling the heat rise in your chest and actively choosing your response anyway. I love this metaphorical imagery right here. You can bring a lamp into a dark room, but you cannot force a blind man to open his eyes. Think about that. Some people aren't confused because the truth is hidden from them. They're confused because that confusion literally protects their ego. If you keep standing there holding the lamp, begging them to see what is right in front of them, you're really just wasting your own fire. Which brings us to section 2, discernment over judgment. Let's see how this builds into the absolutely essential practice of filtering who exactly gets access to your energy. Now, what's really interesting here is this dichotomy. When we deal with foolish behavior, it is so easy to fall into judgment, right? That ego-driven feeling of, well, I'm better than you. But discernment, that's completely different. It's driven by clarity. Discernment simply looks at a situation and says, you know what, this path is going to waste my life. It's not about superiority at all. It's just about not carrying a conversation that should have ended a long time ago. So how do we apply that discernment? Well, a trained mind studies patterns, not promises. You have to look past the decoration of what people say and see the actual fruit they produce over time. Do they only apologize when the consequences finally show up? Do they suddenly become super humble right as you're walking out the door? Or maybe they repeatedly misunderstand you in ways that conveniently benefit them? If their pattern produces exhaustion, it's a drain. All right, section 3, the power of silence. This is the crucial point where we learn how to basically weaponize our non-reaction against people who are trying to pull us away from our center. Look at this contrast. If you stay silent just out of fear, like you're just trying to avoid conflict, your body is going to store all that resentment. That's suppression. But if you stay silent out of pure clarity, realizing the whole argument is just a trap, your body actually stores peace. That is silence as mastery. And the beautiful thing is, it acts like a perfect mirror, reflecting the other person's behavior right back at them without your energy covering it up. Check this out. The pause is a sword. Think about the immense power of just pausing before you react. In that tiny split-second space, their words stop controlling your body. Their ignorance stops controlling your breath. In that pause, you absolutely refuse to turn your peace into a courtroom. You literally reclaim your freedom. Moving into section 4, setting ruthless boundaries. Let's build this into some actionable self-defense, because a powerful mind without boundaries is, well, it's really just a doorway for abuse. I want to walk you through this incredibly practical framework. Notice how an intelligent person perfectly matches their response to the reality of whoever is standing right in front of them. Sincere beginner, be gentle. They lack knowledge, but they're open. But an arrogant fool, be brief. A manipulator, you want to be silent and distant. Aggressive person, firm and protected. And for that repeated offender, your response should simply be unavailable. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that goodness without boundaries is just self-betrayal. We've been trained to believe that being a good person means you have to be endlessly accessible.
No way! You do not need hatred or anger or some dramatic ending to simply withdraw your fuel. Access to your mind and your time has to be earned. But just understanding this in your head isn't enough. It literally has to reach your nervous system. Try this grounding physical procedure the next time you're provoked. Feel your feet, relax your jaw, lower your shoulders, let your breath drop. Rushing is exactly how foolishness grabs the steering wheel of your life. Taking physical command gives you a powerful, controlled response. Okay, Section 5, Achieving True Self-Mastery. Now we're shifting gears from managing the outside world to the most painful, but honestly the most rewarding part of the journey, mastering our own internal landscape.
Because true intelligence is measured by how ruthlessly you remove your own foolishness, right? Not just by how well you spot it in everybody else. So let's do a quick, ruthless internal audit. Where are you foolish? Where do you stay and argue when you know you should just leave? Actually, scratch that. Where do you mistake your own anxiety and overthinking for actual wisdom? Where do you use your massive intelligence just to justify your own fear? That is where the real work begins.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate responsibility we hold. Every fool outside, you can only disturb what remains undisciplined inside you. Think about that. If a single passing sentence from a careless person can completely steal your peace, you really have to study the internal wound or the pride or the insecurity that opened the door to it in the first place. They knocked, sure, but something inside of you answered. Which brings us to this ultimate takeaway. Every minute spent arguing with foolishness is a minute stolen from your future. Attention is literally your life. It's the currency of your existence. Every time you entertain nonsense and emotional chaos, you are stealing time and energy directly away from your own craft and your own destiny. You're sacrificing who you could become just to prove a point to someone who really doesn't care. So, here's my final question for you. Are you paying for nonsense with pieces of your destiny? Take a moment of quiet today to really reflect on what you are truly sacrificing every single time you engage with fools. Protect your peace, be exact with your energy, and reclaim your future.